Aries, welcome to your weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for March 7th through the 13th of 2016. I'm Athen, and this is for Sidereal. If you're new to the channel, be sure to check out the link because the signs are different. All right, so Aries, a big week here in the astrology. We've got that solar eclipse on Tuesday and Wednesday, and this is very much, it's very spiritual solar eclipse, and especially for you guys. It's going to be right here on the cusp between your 12th and your 11th house, probably pulling a little bit more on the 11th house for most of you, but definitely both. So this is all about a new releasing. You know, this solar eclipse is going to be associated with the South Node, which is about coming to spiritual acceptance. And this is spiritual acceptance for how things are. You know, the 12th house is very deep. It's about everything greater than the self. It's about our connection to God, our connection to the divine, you know, in the essential elements of it, right? So through this acceptance comes a tremendous amount of peace, spiritual liberation, faith, trust, acceptance. But with the South Node here and with this whole eclipse, it's really going within, doing the spiritual work, maybe doing some healing with a lot of this since it's involving Chiron. And in this way, it does create that foundation to help you move into this life path, which for you is shifting into your 5th house of self-expression. Okay, so this is where the new life path energy is. This is going to be more emphasized later in the month, but this is what it's all leading towards. So it's not until we clear out the old can we make way for the new. And this is clearing out the old in regards to any over-under extremes with spirituality, with retreating, hiding away sometimes, not getting enough spiritual time out, whatever it might be for you, accepting things for how they are on that spiritual deep level will help release those energies. Now, perhaps on that stronger note of the 11th house, this is the house of the ideals. So over under extremes with that, balancing that. But again, it just comes through observational awareness and acceptance. So it's very deep, it's very spiritual time. This early part of the week is excellent to go within and reflect on some of these things. Maybe even for some of you, groups or organizations, changing your perspective on those, right? Allowing anything old to go with that from your perspective also could be emphasized. So this, I'll talk more about this eclipse during the solar eclipse report, but I do want to mention that it is squaring Saturn, so it's important that we keep very grounded with the whole thing, very patient, long-term, and disciplined in that regards. So let's go and look at the aspect grid for you here. This is the solar eclipse, Tuesday and Wednesday. Leading into that, we've got the sun sextiling up to Pluto, finishing up on Monday from the previous weekend. So this is a sun that's been transiting already your 11th house. So I think there's been a lot of focus lately for about the past month in regards to either friends, groups, networking, or those ideals, or just your progressive nature. So that's going to be strongly emphasized with this in terms of there might be some new insight, there might be some new change, and I think this is all about seeing whatever came to you the previous weekend in terms of where you can shift into a new direction, again, with those areas. And that's going to lead towards that solar eclipse. Now also Monday and Tuesday, the sun is going to pose up to Jupiter, which is involving the eclipses as well, again signifying that this new life path is all about new understanding, especially with Jupiter retrograde. So if you're feeling the extreme, if on one hand you've got that focus or passion about the ideals or the groups, organizations, whatever that 11th house is for you personally, balancing that with the fact that you're learning a lot about your interests, your passions, and really seeing them as one and the same thing. Because what the world needs, what the community needs, the group needs is for you to be your true self. And that's still reflective, like I said, still internalized. But, just staying nice and grounded. There could be optimism with this sometimes. On one level, there could be a lot of optimism, seeing the big picture, enthusiasm, depending on how Jupiter's placed in your personal chart. But staying balanced is going to be key with this aspect. Then as we go into the time after this solar eclipse, we've got a lot of planets changing sign. We've got the sun then going into Pisces. All right, so it's emphasizing that after this eclipse, your focus, I think, will be more on the spiritual side of things. Maybe getting the rest, the relaxation, the time out, understanding more about yourself on that deeper level. Again, in that healthier way because of whatever, deep things are happening. This is a very subconscious, unconscious element, the South Node and the 12th house. So it's not so much about figuring it out as much as it's kind of feeling it, working with it, and accepting. And it's through that acceptance these transformations change. Now, in terms of some other sign changes, we've got Venus going into Aquarius. So in fact, you could enjoy actually a lot of these either group things or idealistic things over the next few weeks with Venus here. Okay, and that could be connecting with friends and stuff this week in that regards. Mars is shifting into Scorpio, which is actually a much better placement for Mars to be in. Not that Libra was all that bad, but he's in his dignity here in Scorpio. So here's where we're all going to be very direct. And for you, I think direct on the truth. You know, after these transformations, this new beginning that's around the corner, there's, I think, this insight you're going to have about what really matters in life and pursuing only what really matters. You know, that's Mars in Scorpio, only doing what is true in that sense. So I think that's a good way of working with it. And I think just being aware of that could be a good source of motivation and drive for you. Thursday and Friday, we got the sun going over that Chiron. All right, there's a lot of planets involved this week. And so this is healing. Again, the spiritual side, the deep emotional side. Again, maybe getting some of that rest, relaxation. Basically, a lot of the stuff that you've just recently come into awareness about, maybe healing. You know, healing your relationship with God. Healing your relationship with what's possible in life. About having a greater surrender in life. You know, these kinds of matters. And allowing life to guide you in a direction that maybe we don't know about. Mercury is going to conjoin up to Neptune, emphasizing that as well in the 11th house, but this is going to be more so relating to whatever you've been thinking about involving the ideals or the progressive or the group-oriented stuff. And so Neptune here, and this is already a familiar energy because you had the sun go over Neptune last week. You know, here with Mercury, there's this uncertainty about the whole thing. And your acceptance of the uncertainty, your willing and ability to deal with uncertainty can determine how this aspect goes into effect. But the more open you are to it, I'll just say, the more peace you can have. In fact, this can be a very compassionate time, very easygoing time, if you're willing to, in that case, sort of surrender to that divine process. Now, Jupiter in this whole mix is actually the benefic in this whole thing, which is quite nice. Is going to be trining up to Pluto. So we're all going to see, I think, the openness for change, you know, the possibility for change and the inspiration here probably with what we're learning about. And for you, your interests or passions or creative self-expression. So there's a good willingness to change. I think really actualizing that going into the weekend is excellent. And this is actually the second aspect with this. We've already had this. Now Jupiter retrograde is we're learning a lot about what we enjoy in this sense for you, 5th house. And through that, it transforms, that motivates, that inspires. And that can be quite powerful in that regards because there's been a lot of things changing along your life path with Pluto up here in the 9th. Now, top off the weekend on Friday, the sun will then go over that south node in the 12th house, again emphasizing the fact that there is awareness about the past, what needs to be accepted. But, you know, a lot of times with the south node, we're yearning for it. And that's what sometimes creates the over-under extremes with the south node in this area. So with the sun here, you can actually understand a lot about what is being released, what about your perspectives of spirituality are being released, and that can be a tremendous amount of insight with the sun going over here. But again, this is a very unconscious part of the chart, so it's really feeling it and allowing those energies to work their way out naturally through a willingness to accept them and maybe heal them with Chiron so close to the mix with all this. And again, this is shifting you into this life path, this new direction, which is all about your creative self-expression for the next 2 years. All right, Aries, so have a great week. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you all next week.